ESPN Radio. This is the Thundering Herd Podcast.
Oh, it's the Herd on ESPN Radio. Wherever you may be, however you may be listening, thanks for making us part of your day. Presented by Progressive. All of our guests via the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. Simulcast on ESPNU. No, it is nice to be here today. I'm off tomorrow. I'm going to watch fireworks. I've told you my favorite holiday is hanging out with my kids on 4th of July. You can have Thanksgiving, sticking around the hot house, eating turkey. You can have Christmas. You can have all these like Hallmark holidays. Give me a couple craft beers, fireworks show, hot dogs, kids, totally in. My favorite holiday. I know. I see what everybody loves in holidays. And I'm like, Thanksgiving? Really? Got to watch the Lions again? The house is 250 degrees with all that turkey? Taking naps all day, stuffed? Indoor meat sweats. Say it out loud. Indoor meat sweats. And Christmas, yeah, Dad's paying for everything, even the presents he gets. I don't like that. Halloween? Oh, good. Razor blades and apples. Knock yourself out. 4th of July is like brewski, explosions in the sky, and a beach. Sign me up. Cannot wait. So, this is one of these stories where I'm not going to react to the story, like most of the media. Because I don't have to react to this story. I've been preaching it for 3 years. The story I'm going to lead with today is a story I've been pounding home to the point where many of you say, Colin, enough. You're wrong, you're right, enough. But I was right. The Knicks see Carmelo and the Lakers see Kobe as these assets. They show them off. They bring them in to sway free agents. And the young stars roll their eyes. Melo and Kobe, deluded ball hogs with ridiculous egos way past their prime. Knicks and Lakers think they're attractive. They're not. They're not turn-ons. They're turn-offs. How many times are you going to roll out Kobe, Lakers, and his cartoon ego into the sales pitch? 36, about to be 37, 2 surgeries, no defense, turn Dwight Howard and Steve Nash into his valets. Go ahead, make fun of Dwight Howard. Hey, playa, he was in the Western Conference Finals last year. Where was Kobe? Go ahead and make fun of Dwight Howard. But players like Kevin Love yesterday, Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, Battier, Ray Allen, took pay cuts to play with LeBron. The Lakers will overpay you. No thanks. Did you know the story in 2012 when Kobe sat in that meeting with Dwight Howard? Did you ever hear the story? Oh, I did. It's now been documented. Made Mitch Kupchak very angry. But Mitch is a team guy and only let it out to a few friends. But it eventually leaked to the media. Kobe sat in that meeting and said, listen, I want you to be a Laker. I'll be the number 1 guy, Powell number 2, and you number 3. Oh, he said that. And Dwight Howard thought, you think I'm going to leave Orlando to be the 3rd guy? Dwight Howard left. Again, I'd like to remind you he was in the Western Conference Finals, and if you watch what Houston's doing, that's the team probably going to beat Golden State potentially in the next 3 years. Did you hear what happened with the Steve Nash interview they rolled Kobe into? Oh, you didn't hear that? I actually did. The Lakers wanted to make a big presentation to Steve Nash. And Steve Nash ultimately came. He's tired of Phoenix. But everybody dressed in white shirts, crisp suits. Kobe showed up in gym shorts and a gold chain over a T-shirt. Why? Because Kobe's got his lettuce, his plane, his copter, his mansion, and his rings. He's got too much money and things to care. And they keep rolling him into these meetings. They rolled him into this LaMarcus Aldridge meeting. Turned him off. He's either going to go back to Portland, go to San Antonio. I've been saying this for 3 years. Melo and Kobe are no longer turn-ons. They're the girl who shows your fake nails. I've never met a single smart guy who thinks that's a good look. And I've never met a single smart girl who's attractive with options who thinks a Corvette pulling up to the house is a sweet look. Maybe Darlene does with a big hair in rural Oklahoma. Okay? The Corvette, the fake nails, Melo, Kobe, you think it's a big sales pitch. People are rolling their eyes at you. Okay? Kobe's got the money, the rings, the stuff, the chopper. He doesn't care anymore. And free agents want titles, and Kobe's done getting titles, especially as the best, second-best player. Or perhaps midway through this season when he gets hurt again, the third-best player. Unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And I'm not reacting to this story. I have been begging people and the Lakers and the Knicks. Yoo-hoo, hello. It's incredible. Just incredible.
Where Colin was right.
Yeah, on that one, how many examples do you need? The second thing yesterday, I did an interview with a football coach from Michigan, and it was rather clunky, Jim Harbaugh.
That was on me.
Yeah, pretty much. But it doesn't matter. First of all, Jim Harbaugh didn't tank it on purpose, and I wasn't out to make the Big Ten look bad. He's wired differently. I got 6 emails from college football writers at other networks yesterday. They'd all had a similar situation. I got 2 coaches who emailed me. They said, nothing you could do. I go on small market local radio stations all the time. The questions are bad, but you make it work. Jim just didn't feel like yesterday he wanted to talk. He's still a great football coach. Michigan's still a great program. The Big Ten, in my opinion, is going to have a very, very, very productive next decade. Nobody here holds a grudge. I'm not going to bring him on again. He's just a difficult interview. Mike and Mike had him on after he was hired at Michigan. I asked Greenberg this morning. He said, yeah, it was clunky. There are no perfect questions. There are some perfect answers. It's all good. Nobody's mad here. It's not a bad day for him, not a bad day for me. The big lead guy called me yesterday, most downloaded piece of video in the history of the site. It's the most downloaded thing I ever did. I'm in the news-making business. Wasn't a bad day for anybody here. But we're not holding any grudges. We think he's a great coach. We think it's a great program. We think their fans are amazing. I'm rooting like hell for Michigan to be great for a decade because I love college football, and I don't want to talk about Boise State or TCU or Central Florida. I want to talk about Notre Dame and Ohio State and USC and UCLA and Miami and Alabama and Georgia and Texas and Oklahoma. It's all good, brah. For Jim, for me, for his company, for my company. He's just wired a little differently. Good to have you in today. Absolute pleasure. A lot of stuff to talk about. A lot of stuff to talk about. And I got to tell you a story. My mom passed away a year ago, but there was something really funny about my mom. And it reminded me yesterday when I watched Wimbledon. I got to tell you a story. I thought of my mom.
Want more of the Herd? The Thundering Herd Podcast.
My mom passed away a little over a year ago, and she was 80 years old, and just sharp and funny to the very end. And my sister found her and called, and it was pretty rough. Because my mom, it was sudden because my mom was so funny to the end, we didn't see it coming. But she lived a remarkable life. Moved from New York. She got in a boat at 14 from Europe and went to New York City and stayed there for a couple of years, and eventually left New York City with a friend, went over to Oregon, Seattle, and then lived on the beach and kind of retired the last 25 years looking at the Pacific Ocean. A remarkable woman. Taught me right from wrong. Just an amazing human being that had to overcome a very, very difficult childhood. She grew up in the impoverished rural England where she once for Christmas got an orange and was thankful. There was some abuse in her family. She moved out of the house at 14, got in a boat, ran from it, ended up in New York City, and then had me on the other coast, and just funny. But one of the things I take from my mom at 80 years old didn't have a wrinkle. And I'd introduce my mom to my wife or people, and they'd be like, she's like a monk. She doesn't have a wrinkle. How does a woman get to 80 with that skin? My mom didn't like the sun because my mom's British. And so I always sort of theorized my mom just didn't like heat. She could handle the rain and the dark. She'd watch the BBC. She'd listen to Roy Orbison. She loved her country music. She loved her British TV shows. She loved her animals and pets and the garden. She was so British. And to the very end, she had a British accent. But she didn't like the heat. And I always kind of thought that's why she moved to Washington State and Oregon. It was cloudy and damp, and she liked it. So and I don't know if this is wired into your DNA, I've never liked the heat. I've been in 12 years on the East Coast. I can take some cold. I can take sunny skies. I lived in Tampa for about a year and a half. I couldn't get out of there fast enough. It was so hot. So it's nothing against the people of Tampa, but it was brutal. And for whatever reason, just humidity knocks me out. So I thought of my mom yesterday because before she passed, to the very end, she had a British accent. Yesterday was the hottest day in the history of Wimbledon. It was 96 degrees, a record for the tournament. The BBC spent like 1,500 words on the topic. The Brits don't know what the heck to do with heat, and they all hate it. And when I went over to Wimbledon, it's the summer. Heathrow Airport doesn't even have air conditioning. I mean, the major airport doesn't even have air conditioning. They only get 4 hot days a year, and hot for them is 81. And so yesterday, it was so bloody hot. Me knickers are getting damp. And I thought, what would my mom have done in this heat? It's so bloody hot. Anybody want to get a pint? I can barely get me porridge down. Barely feel like getting off me bum. Me trousers feel like the bloody Thames. So, Mom, up in the sky, I don't know what the weather is in heaven. I really don't. But Mom is saying this morning, looking down at Wimbledon, the heat's got me underarms all boogered. I hope heaven is 73 degrees. That's all I can say for my mom. Because if it's as hot as Wimbledon yesterday, my mom couldn't take it.
It's so damn hot.
It is just, you don't understand. England doesn't get heat. God, me sweating crumpets. Can't do anything out here. Got to get a bloody pint. It's an awful British accent. Tip of the cap to Mom. In heaven. Hopefully 64 degrees. So, yesterday, LaMarcus Aldridge goes into the Lakers meeting room with Mitch Kupchak, the owner, and Kobe, and comes out, and according to Mike Bresnahan, an excellent NBA writer, he wasn't feeling it. Aldridge wasn't feeling it. And reportedly, some of it was on Kobe Bryant's shoulders. There was a funny tweet yesterday from somebody named Asher Feltman who said LaMarcus Aldridge asked Byron Scott where he would fit into the Lakers offense, and Kobe jumped in during the meeting and said, under the basket, getting rebounds for me. But years ago, I preached with the Yankees and the Lakers, it's this institutional arrogance, and for the record, it's very hard to avoid. You win titles, you dominate leagues, there's fawning press, you get rich. And you start to think, our way works. But what you forget is your way was built on those hours and that grinding and those risks and that diligence. And you start to win multiple titles in any sport, and you're getting a little later to work, and you lose the edge. And instead of a new idea, and your rival's got a new idea, you're sitting there in that Laker office saying, well, this worked before. And management, when they get really big, nobody wants to take any risk. They don't want to get fired. They just want to eventually buy that condo down in Naples. Just play it safe on the back nine. And the Lakers in 2015, their sales pitches, we've got Kobe. We're the Lakers. We've got Kobe. And as Brian Windhorst said, it's not working.
LaMarcus Aldridge sent a shot across their bow today when he said their presentation to him was not adequate from a basketball standpoint. And that should be a warning sign and a learning statement going forward for the Lakers.
The Lakers have become, and I've said this for the Yankees, don't become that cautionary tale. Don't become obsessed with your success and living through the rearview mirror. You got to look what Houston's doing, baby. They're doing the windshield. Warriors are doing the windshield. Cavs are doing the windshield. Cavs are hungry. Warriors are hungry. Rockets are hungry. Blazers are hungry. OKC is hungry. Lakers, they got the lettuce. They got that TV deal. They got the titles. They got Kobe. They got the glamour. I'm telling you, John Ireland's the voice of the Los Angeles Lakers, and he said it's not going to be easy like it was 15 years ago to get these free agents.
I don't know if they can get DeAndre Jordan and LaMarcus Aldridge, but they're going to try and get Aldridge and a center. They're going to try and get two guys with the cap space that they have. And I don't know if it'll work. They're not the favorite to get anybody. Aldridge is favored to go to the Spurs. DeAndre is favored to go back to the Clippers. They're going to have to continue to adjust on the fly.
And I don't think they're very good at it. And I think it's hard to avoid. I think it's hard to avoid for the Yankees. I think it's hard. That's why I've always been impressed with, like, the St. Louis Cardinals or the San Francisco Giants. They win, but can bail on players. They don't fall in love with themselves. But I see this with the Lakers, and I've been preaching it. It's institutional arrogance. It's, well, this thing worked before. The Warriors aren't saying that. They're saying, anybody got a new idea? Anybody got a theory, methodology that works? So it's a tough time. Start your day at Subway with bacon, egg, and cheese topped with new guac. Subway, eat fresh. I've also, we got Chris Broussard on. Stuff breaking here as we go. Aaron Aflalo's gone to the Knicks. $8 million for a guy who's a decent starter, nothing special. Basically, everybody's staying. Paul Pierce is going to go to the Clippers. Tyson Chandler's going to go to the Suns. He's making a lot of money at the end of his career. Good for him. Great guy. Damari Carroll goes to the Raptors. I like their team. I just think what's happening with Melo and Kobe, these deluded, past their prime ball hogs are not the sales pitch these organizations think they are. Tim, you're in the herd. Go ahead, bud. Fire away.
Yeah, I think Kobe just lacks self-awareness and self-knowledge. He's an aging athlete. Why are they going to hire new or get new guys around him? He's only going to play 12 to 15 games next season before he's hurt. They need people. Yeah, there's no question, Tim. If I had an over and under on Kobe, I'd put it at 54 games. I mean, that would be my over-under. So, and I've said my biggest fear is the Lakers re-sign him to another extension. I don't know how he's getting it. And, by the way, for the first 99% of Kobe's career, I was called a Kobe apologist. I'm not anti-Kobe. I'm anti-this Kobe, which is it's over. I'm not anti-Kobe. I'm anti the last 2 to 3 year Kobe where he's turning off free agents.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
The Dan Le Batard has a kind of a theory. He said on his show recently he was jealous. Yesterday he said of the Jim Harbaugh interview we had, which was a clunker. And Le Batard and I are good friends, and so we text back and forth, and we do regularly. And I don't do that with many people here. Bill Simmons and I text back and forth. Le Batard and I back and forth. Guys, I'm interested in their creative kind of vision and thoughts. And Le Batard yesterday he said, or this morning he's like, God, I'm jealous of that interview. And I'm like, I'm jealous of your TV show. It makes me, with your dad, laugh out loud. But he had a really good point on yesterday's show. Television gets noticed, but radio doesn't. That's why Howard Stern's a legend. Howard got talked about. And Le Batard said yesterday, and I thought it was very, very smart. He goes, Le Batard says, I strive to be great, but terrible is second. We're the opposite of a restaurant. I want to be great. But if I can't be great, being a dumpster fire is not a terrible thing. In a restaurant, you want to be great or, if not, very good. You never want to be terrible. You never want to be rude. You never want people to walk out. Not in my business. My business, and I didn't try to do Harbaugh, and I would never try to do it. But if you have a clunker 2 or 3 times a year, I'll get 1 million downloads on that. We were trending all over the country. It's not the world's worst thing. It doesn't hurt Harbaugh. It doesn't hurt me. We're all good. He's a great coach. Michigan football, they're amazing. But it's funny. A lot of people are like, it's your fault. It doesn't matter. We're not in the fault business. We couldn't give a rip. When I get into an argument with my wife, I'm not like, I'm 54% right. You're 40. Who gives a rip? That's a loser's playground. That's what losers do. You're right. I'm right. It doesn't matter. We're both doing really well in our life. Harbaugh has a great life. I've got a great life. We don't care whose fault it is. But Levitard's point is very interesting. All media is different. For the New York Times, they've got to be great or really good. They don't want disasters. I occasionally getting called out by Aaron Rodgers or that clunker with Harbaugh, it's not terrible for my business, despite what some managers here might think. The landscape is changing. AM radio is slowly going away over the next 5 to 10 years. Radio is trying to get noticed, trying to be great, but if sometimes there's a tire fire on the side of the road and traffic slows, yesterday was not a terrible day for the show. I had 3 different radio hosts in the country, all of them very good, say, I'm jealous. It was fun. It was different. It was weird. It was odd. It was okay. And didn't hurt Michigan one bit. It's going to be fine. It's Michigan football. I mean, let's be honest. I won't have nearly as many downloads on my show today. I'm in the download biz. So, you know, and I'm
with
not,
that attitude, maybe not, Colin. We got a lot of show left here, all
what
right?
I'm just saying is I didn't try to make it happen. I really didn't. I tried to make it interesting because I always try to be great. But maybe Windhorst will be a jerk and we'll get downloads. Seriously. At this point, just bring on somebody to be difficult. But a lot of people are like, it's your fault, it's his fault. It doesn't matter whose fault it is. Who cares? It's radio. This isn't like NASA or a welfare program or a school decision. This is radio. That's all this is. You're driving to work. You got a tough job. I just don't want you to turn the station. Yesterday, I was thinking about this. Most of the guys are staying with their team. Kevin Love, I think, made the right decision. Paul Pierce is going to go to the Wizards or the Clippers. I'm going to tell you something. Paul Pierce is a Hall of Famer. Here's why Paul Pierce is a Hall of Famer. You go to the last series Paul Pierce played. He was the go-to guy for the Wizards. Not Bradley Beal, not John Wall. And those guys are talented. Paul Pierce is one of those guys that can literally play 18 minutes a night, and you can remember virtually every play. I mean, Sharif Abdul-Rahim scored over 15,000 points. I can't remember 2 of them. I mean, if you go to actual pitches thrown, Mariano Rivera never played in a complete New York Yankee game. He rarely played in 2 innings. But he had massive impact. Do you know Nirvana only had 2 really great albums? Look at the impact they had. That's talent. That's transcendent. John F. Kennedy was only a president for 3 years. Yet his speeches, Camelot, the space race, Cuban Missile Crisis, Marilyn Monroe, are like seminal moments in presidential history. It's not about working at the factory. It's about making your time count. Paul Pierce is one of those guys. He's not on the floor much anymore. You go back to that Washington-Atlanta series, he was Washington's most important player. They get probably swept without him. What's his name again? He's so forgettable. Sharif Abdul-Rahim averaged 18 a night and 8 rebounds. I can't remember one of either. I can't remember. Can you? Paul Pierce in that Washington series had like 20 huge moments. He is so valuable, but he's not a guy that has to be on the field. He's almost like a situational great third down back or a situational pass rusher. Not every athlete, not every person is built for everything. I was told this years ago by a college coach. He said, my best recruiters are my worst coaches. My worst recruiters are my best coaches. He said, it's my job as a coach to figure out the strengths and liabilities of the guy and put him in a position to succeed. He goes, I've never had a coach who is my best recruiter and my best coach. Belichick would be a lousy recruiter. Okay? So it's one of those things. Paul Pierce is so valuable, not by the minutes played, but by what he does with the minutes granted. We were talking this morning, Hall of Famer. Without a doubt, in my opinion, Paul Pierce is a Hall of Famer. Without a doubt. I don't care what team you are in the NBA, I would find a place for Paul Pierce on my roster now within a reasonable price range. I would just figure out, and Paul Pierce is the kind of guy, he's so smart. Paul Pierce is the kind of guy you could put on the bench all year. And Paul be like, don't play me until May. I want to get in shape. Because Paul knows his legacy now is framed by playoffs. So Paul's not going to be needy. Paul's not going to argue to start. Paul wants to be ready to go in May and June. So you're not going to get a guy that needs shots. Last year, did you see what Paul did in the playoffs? He elevated all his numbers. He was like a 54% shooter in the playoffs. He wants to rest until it counts. How many guys in the NBA who could hit a game-winning jumper to win a playoff series would say to you, yeah, you just play the young guys till we get to about March 15th. Love the guy. ESPN Radio presented by Progressive. Find an agent, progressive.com. All right, Windhorst. Boy, I hope he's a jerk. And we had another letter yesterday. Did you guys see the new letter? Did you guys see the new letter? Very, very emotional. Very emotional letter yesterday. LeBron had the letter from the Players Tribune. Very emotional. We'll have it next. The Herd on ESPN Radio.
The diva, Colin Cowherd.
Colin Cowherd.
The Thundering Herd Podcast.
Great to be here today. Unbelievable. Taking tomorrow off. 4th of July weekend. Love it. Life is fun. Life is fun. Isn't life fun? Isn't life fun, Stanzik? You get to watch your Blue Jay games all the time. Life's amazing. Just amazing. I don't know where I'm going. Just kind of rambling there.
Interesting.
I'm kind of in a happy spot.
All I'll say is it's always awkward rooting for the Blue Jays on the 4th of July.
Why is that?
Because they're Canadian.
Well, why don't you love our neighbors to the north? Why would that be difficult?
I'm shocked that you're not getting this.
The best holiday in the world.
Yeah, it's weird to root for a Canadian team on the day where you celebrate America's independence. As an American, it's awkward for me.
We are joined at the hip with Canada. Canada is us. We love Canada.
But yesterday was Canada Day, and you weren't rooting for the Blue Jays.
I wasn't rooting for it, but Canada, had I been on the border in Detroit and they're in Windsor, they would have invited me over for a delicious Tim Hortons and a craft beer. Canadians love Americans. We love Canadians. I know Molson's, you can get Molson's right down the street. And there's a Tim Hortons a mile from my house. Why would I? So let me explain this sort of provincial.
It's weird for me to root for a Canadian team on the day where everyone is celebrating America.
I root for Canada always. Look at countries and their neighbors.
What if the Toronto Blue Jays are playing the Washington Nationals on the 4th of July? It's weird for me.
Honestly.
How
about if I punched you in the forehead or hit you with a hard spoon? That's the dumbest thing. You root against Canada on 4th of July.
No, I just don't actively, I'm not like, rah, let's go Blue Jays.
I've never heard anything. So you're going to tell me
that if they lost tomorrow, I'm cool with it. That's what I'm saying.
Let's be honest. We love Bieber and Wayne Gretzky. We're basically half American, half Canadian anyway. I have never thought about that one time in my entire life. The way I look at Canada, here's the way I look at Canada. I've moved around the country. And swear to God, I've had some of the weirdest neighbors ever. When I move into a neighborhood, I'm just praying I don't get a wackadoo next to me. So when I moved to Connecticut, I was so lucky. I have this couple next to me. My son and his son, they're like best friends. I'm just happy Canada's our neighbor and not Syria. I mean, the way I look at the world, if you're America, there's only one other country I would have picked besides Canada, and that's Australia, because, they get the weather, but we wouldn't get that weather. I mean, Canada's the best neighbor anybody's had. They don't have a big military. They mind their own business. They have good donuts, peat moss, and beer. And they don't even like the sports we like. So they're not, trying to become us. They're like, hockey's way better than the National Football League. And we're like, kooky madookie, whatevs. It's like if you own a restaurant and there's an apartment on top of the restaurant. When you get that kid that rents out your apartment, you just want a non-serial killer. I mean, basically Canada says to us every day, hey, we've got all the maple syrup you can use. Come on up north. And the best neighbors ever. We're basically renting out an apartment above us, and Canada always pays rent on time. They're the best. Who doesn't love Canadians?
Great story. Compelling and rich.
We share the Niagara Falls. Hey, that side's yours. Come on over. Who cares? Just don't roll off a barrel in that thing. It's dangerous. I mean, they're leasing some space from us right on top of the bar. And they always pay rent on time.
Why don't you stop talking for a while?
God, I feel like I'm drunk right now. I wish I was drunk. So it's not exactly the LeBron letter, but it is a letter, and it is signed by a basketball player. Kevin Love yesterday wrote a letter. Now, I can't use the LeBron music coming home because he's not from there and he's not leaving. So I need new music because Kevin Love has decided. He wrote a letter, actually. I'm going to read it here. Let's do new music for Kevin Love. Okay, here's his letter. And here's the funny part. You know how LeBron's last line was, I'm coming back to Cleveland? Kevin Love's first line in his letter yesterday was, I'm going back to Cleveland. He killed all the drama right there. He's got no sense of drama. And then he continues, after game one of the finals, it really struck me, sitting on the sidelines, never wanted to be in a game more than that one. I dreamed of playing in the NBA Finals. I just wanted to help my guys win. Couldn't have been prouder of them as they poured their blood, sweat, and tears onto the court. Yeah, of course, I heard the free agency rumors, but at the end of the day, after meeting with my teammates, front office, it was clear Cleveland was a place for me. We're all on the same page. We're all in. We have unfinished business. Now it's time to get back to work. And I'm not even remotely crying. He literally, his first line, he ruined the drama. Yeah, I'm going back to Cleveland. Here's why. You're supposed to go, here's why I'm going back to Cleveland. Here's Kevin Love.
There was a lot of options that were great, but none really fit exactly what I wanted in Cleveland, and that was be able to, have happiness, win, and make money. And I think Cleveland was the place, or is the place where I can really take a run at all three of those, and that is truly gratifying at the end of the day.
Cedric, you're in the herd, buddy. Fire away. Thanks for calling the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Colin. Appreciate it. First of all, that song was just hilarious. It just fit right in with Kevin Love. But my question is, do you think if the Lakers don't pick up a big free agent, DJ might stay with the Clippers, LaMarcus Aldridge clearly doesn't want to stay, is it safe to say that the Lakers probably won't be a formidable team for the next 2 to 3 years, or at least until Kobe Bryant leaves?
Cedric, I've been saying this over and over on the show. This is not a fast rebuild. The good news is you've got a starting point guard for 12 years in D'Angelo Russell who's going to be a star, and Julius Randle's going to be a very viable four. This is not a quick rebuild. It's not, because veteran players don't want to rebuild. I always use the old house, new house analogy. New couples, yeah, they love the old house, the charming, the fixer-upper. By the time you get real money, you're 30, 40, 50, you're an attorney, your wife's doing really well. Do you want to spend all your time working on a house? For most people, they're busy and successful. They want to buy a nice house. They don't want to have to rebuild it. Like a young couple doesn't have kids. They don't have their careers going yet. They'll spend all weekend on the kitchen and banging down walls. It's cute. It's charming. I've done it. It's a different time of life, okay? But when you're going to be 50 years old and you're in your career and you've got your kids and you're busy, you want to be spending your weekend breaking down walls and building a kitchen and a shower. And in the end, these veteran NBA players have no interest at 31 years old with 2 great years left playing with a bunch of rookies and winning 37 games. They want to win now. Brian Windhorst, and we're hoping he's cranky next.
And now, for Geico's edition of Stuff Found in Your Car, we go inside your side door pocket. Hello, yes, the crumpled receipt with gum in it. From your anniversary dinner, you sprang for expensive wine, your server was Beth. That dinner was a couple $100. Money you could get back if you switched to Geico and saved hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. I bet you'd save that receipt. Frame it even. But really, where did I go wrong? Was it the corkage fee?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com today.
Back the Herd on ESPN Radio. Chris Broussard on earlier, my guy Brian Windhorst, who is the only person in America that's ever moved from Miami to Akron and got happier. I think it's amazing. And he should be happy because the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to make the finals now for the next 7 years in the Eastern Conference. I think Kevin loved going there. I said this. I think it's going to be a much better version of Miami. It's going to be a bigger, stronger, more physical basketball team. LeBron's a smarter player. I think Cleveland's going to be unbelievable for the next 5 years. So, all right, let's start with this. Kevin Love, before I get to some other stuff, Kevin Love, 5 years, signed the deal. Does it surprise you at all, Brian?
I guess the 5 years part did because, not only is there cap jumps coming, which, you could have sold yourself on a short deal, but, LeBron is not locked in. Now, we think LeBron's going nowhere, but, it's a bit of a risk. But I think what he basically said last night, did a radio show last night, and he said, listen, I wanted the winning and I wanted the money. And where the Cavs are positioned, especially in the Eastern Conference, and the fact that there was $110 million sitting on the table was very appealing to him. I also think that the Lakers may have erred. I think for a long time he envisioned himself in L.A., and they didn't have enough of an offer, and they didn't prioritize him. If they really wanted Kevin Love, they should have come out of the gates going after him instead of going after LaMarcus Aldridge. And, he never – by the time the Lakers got done meeting with people, Love wasn't even interested in meeting with them anymore. So I think that the lack of a viable alternative plus those other factors, ended up making a difference.
I've been saying this for 2 to 3 years. The Lakers see Kobe as an asset, but continually he goes into these meetings, and he's not the asset they think. Did they butcher it yesterday?
Colin, the Lakers got put on blast yesterday by LaMarcus Aldridge, and I actually think it could be a key moment for them to step back and reevaluate. What LaMarcus Aldridge said, and by the way, this is from 3 or 4 different sources, not just, Chris Broussard, yes, but also very other reputable sources, including Lakers beat writers. LaMarcus Aldridge essentially said he was not impressed with their presentation. He was not impressed with their analytics that they presented. He was not impressed with their basketball situation. I'm going to leave Kobe out of it. I'm because I don't have a great feel for that, I'm just going to, leave Kobe out of it. But the Lakers are living like it's 2005. And LaMarcus Aldridge slapped them across the face yesterday and said, wake up. And it has now happened 3 years in a row. Dwight Howard, Carmelo Anthony, LaMarcus Aldridge. And at some point, the Lakers are going to have to look in the mirror and realize that it's not 2005 anymore. Dr. Buss is not with us. Kobe Bryant is not in his prime. You need to do things differently. You need to make adjustments. You need to invest in your organization. The Lakers, for all the money that they bring in from a television standpoint and ticketing, they are in the stone ages of investment in sports science and analytics. Colin, there was a paragraph in the L.A. Times yesterday that could define this era of Lakers basketball. It was written by Mike Brejnahan, and it was essentially a rebuttal from the Lakers organization to LaMarcus Aldridge complaining about their analytics. And the Lakers saying, if we had had better players, we would maybe have had better stats. This is one of the most ridiculous things an NBA team could ever imply in 2015. He wasn't talking about the quality of how high the stats were. He was talking about the quality of the stats that were presented by comparison to a team like Portland or a team like Houston or a team like San Antonio. Absolutely a shot across the bow for the Lakers, and it is time for them to pay attention.
Yeah. We call it institutional arrogance, where you think, I think the Knicks and the Lakers and the Yankees. I mean, the big Knicks news right now is Aaron Aflalo. I mean, he's cheap, but think about this: Lakers, Knicks. The big get is Aaron Aflalo. I mean, the world's changing.
Again, it's actually not the big news right now, Colin, because Greg Monroe has elected to sign with the Milwaukee Bucks.
Milwaukee Bucks over the Knicks.
Over the Knicks and over the Lakers. And according to Jeff Zillgitt of USA Today, the Knicks did not offer Greg Monroe a maximum contract, which is absolutely ludicrous. Even if you don't think Monroe is a difference-making franchise center, with where the current market is, it's a no-brainer to try to lock a guy like that up on a max contract. And now the Knicks are really going to be in it because even if you didn't think a guy like Greg Monroe was going to be ideal for your team for the next 3 years, cap space doesn't play. You can't put cap space in the box score at the end of the game and say how many points did cap space score. You have to get assets so that you can maybe create assets down the road. And for the Knicks not to offer Greg Monroe a max contract in this market, if that's true, and Jeff Zillgitt has a pretty good record, I'm sure it's true. If that is true, it's a mismanagement by the Knicks. It's the Knicks living in the wrong era. You know, the Knicks trying to force the triangle down these players' throats. This is not the way the game is played. Again, I think we've got the Lakers and Knicks playing in the wrong era here. And not only that, they're playing in a cap space game. And how many years in a row are the Knicks and the Lakers going to whiff on free agents before they realize that free agency may not be the way to go for everybody?
Wow. I mean, by the way, Greg Monroe is a little bit like Okafor. You're not going to get great defense, but he's going to give you 15, 16, and 10, and I don't think he's as great potentially as Okafor, but everybody just raved about Okafor. He doesn't play defense either. Greg Monroe's been in the league. You know he's 16 and 10, and, I mean, I don't think Greg Monroe's a great player, but like you said, if you're the Knicks and the Lakers, how are you not – it's incredible, folks. The Milwaukee Bucks, good for them. Portland was also in on that. Now, you spent a couple years in Miami. What happens with D. Wade? He's going to stay there, right?
Yeah, he's going to resign. I never believed for 1 second that he was leaving there. I think that the Heat lowballed him to try to force him into taking his player option because they liked him at that number of $16 million. The Heat are a very smart organization. They have one of the best capologists in the NBA, a guy named Andy Ellisberg, who's actually their general manager underneath Pat Riley. And if anybody can concoct a contract over 3 or 4 years that can make sure Dwayne Wade is taken care of financially and also the Heat are limited in their exposure to the tax, it's Andy Ellisberg. And they'll do that deal. And, you know, it'll probably be a 3 or 4 year contract. And the 4th year of it, Dwayne might not actually play, or he may play very little, and it's still going to be a going-away present, but by then it'll be less of an issue. I think the real issue for the Heat is they've got Goran Dragic, who they just signed to a big contract. Yeah. They have Chris Bosh on the book.
Yeah.
And they were the team that was looking to try to make a run at Kevin Durant next summer. They were going to try to pull their 2010-2 again, and if Wade signs, it's going to make it very hard for them to have the cap space to do that.
Brian Windhorst, you were money. You were money today, Brian Windhorst. Thanks, man.
I'm just trying to be an interesting guest, Colin.
You should have, you know what, if you'd have paused longer and said, I don't know, you would have almost been as good as Harbaugh yesterday. I appreciate that.
I'm a Buckeye at heart. Don't ever forget it.
I won't, buddy.
Want more of the Herd? The Thundering Herd Podcast.
I thought it was really interesting. Brian Windhorst brought the hammer today, man. He brought the hammer. He said today what I've been saying now for the Lakers and Knicks for the last couple of years. It is painful to watch.
I think we've got the Lakers and Knicks playing in the wrong era here. And not only that, they're playing in a cap space game. And how many years in a row are the Knicks and the Lakers going to whiff on free agents before they realize that free agency may not be the way to go?
It's incredible. I mean, it's just incredible. Houston's using analytics, and Memphis is using analytics, and Golden State's using analytics, and the Knicks and the Lakers are like, we live in big cities with big buildings. I mean, at least the Lakers have great weather and some glamour, but, I don't know why they keep putting Kobe in these meetings. He turned off Dwight Howard. He turned off Steve Nash. He turned off Aldridge. Shaq left him. Phil Jackson wrote a book and ripped him. I mean, Kobe was a great player, but now that his game is eroded, You don't want to deal with his stuff. It's like Barry Bonds. When Barry Bonds was great, you deal with it. But when Barry Bonds, because of his personality, isn't great, nobody wants to deal with him. It's the aging actor. When he's in his prime, you'll deal with it. But nobody wants to deal with a guy throwing phones at people when he's 64 and has phlegm in his nose and mouth all day. It's just, Dave, you're in the herd. Fire away, bud.
Hey, Colin. Hey, this whole topic about Lakers whiffing on all these free agents in the past couple of years, and my thoughts are, and I'd like to hear your thoughts are, if you ask me, I think they dodged the bullet. I mean, looking back on it now, you really want to build your franchise around Dwight Howard?
Well, here's what's interesting. Carmelo, you're right. Yeah, like dodging. If you get Carmelo, he's the most overrated star in the league, and he has been for years. But Dwight Howard made the Western Conference Finals. Everybody can laugh at that. You can all laugh at Dwight Howard in Houston. Dwight Howard got to the Western Conference Finals without 2 starters. They were hurt. That Houston Rockets roster is money. Go look at it. You want to get to the Western Conference Finals, you go combine the Warriors and Rockets rosters. Hell, there's like 12 good players. Those are real teams with real players. Yeah, everybody makes fun of Dwight Howard, and he's not my favorite guy. But you get double-digit rebounds and block shots and 18 from him. You like Jordan Hill over that? And the reality is when you're trying to recruit players, if you had Dwight Howard, you'd be like, okay, we got D'Angelo Russell from the draft. We think he's the next great point. We got Kobe for a year, the best big in the league, arguably, Julius Randle, and now you come over and you can score 22. You at least have another all-star and a point guard that you think's a star. What is your sales pitch now? We've got 2 really young guys who have never played. We do think the point guard's going to be great. But Dwight's an all-star. At least he's something. And by the way, for a lot of these 4s like Kevin Love who wants to score 20, if you have Dwight Howard, you can say you don't have to stay in the basket. He'll be the rim protector. You go out and hit 3-pointers, make more money and get more points and sell more shoes. I mean, so Dwight Howard can be a very attractive sales guy if you go get a Kevin Love or LaMarcus Aldridge. They want to shoot jumpers. I mean, Aldridge has no interest in being around the basket. He wants to shoot. So does Durant. All these guys, they want to shoot. Dwight Howard wants to bang around the 10. So you can say, hey, you don't have to stay down. Go out and shoot. Dwight will protect the basket. So that you can make fun of Dwight Howard. There's a lot of ways you can use him during a sales pitch. Mick, you're in the herd. Go ahead. No big names for the Knicks. What do you think of it, Mick?
Well, listen, the thing is, Phil Jackson's basketball knowledge is better than all of us combined. So I'm telling New York fans, and I'm a huge New York fan, Greg Monroe is not a max contract player. So everyone just relax about that. And number 2, in 2016, you got Durant free agency. You got all these guys.
Durant.
And, the Spurs kind of run a sort of version of the triangle, too. Look at them.
Mick,
they're doing great.
Why the hell would I want to go to the worst team in the league? Why in the world would I want to go to the worst team in the league if I'm Kevin? Kevin Durant's the second best looking girl in a sorority on campus and can go anywhere. And you're asking her to date a booger-eating nerd in the science department. Kevin Durant's the second best player in the league. He's not going to choose the Knicks. He is the second prettiest girl on the campus of Florida State. She can date whoever she wants. Come on! You're kidding yourself. I got all the teams lined up. Yeah, here's Derek Fisher, Phil Jackson, limping to his seat, the worst owner arguably in the league, and Carmelo will never let you shoot. Oh, come on. You guys crack me up. You're like the guy who calls a radio show. Hey, I got a baseball trade. The Angels will give us Mike Trout, and we'll give them a shortstop for Chattanooga. I'll take your answer off the air. Durant to the Knicks? God. You got to be kidding me. I always love that guy. You ever listen to local radio? The trade proposition guy? All right, we get James Harden and Dwight Howard. What are you going to give them? One of the Lopez brothers who's in high school? I mean, come on. That's what hacks do. You gotta be kidding me. What are you going to... By the way, Durant wants the ball. He already plays with a guy that won't pass. Now he wants Melo? Aaron, you're in the herd.
Colin.
What's up?
I cannot believe what you're saying. This man wants the ball. He wants to play.
Yes.
There's got to be so many reasons why that he would go to the Knicks. And I can't believe you're bashing the Knicks on top of that.
Name three. By the way, Greg Monroe doesn't want to go to you. He chose Milwaukee.
Yeah, but there must be 104 reasons.
Why? Your
3
taxes
points,
are...
0.3.
Oh, God, your team's a
it's
joke.
It's a joyful Zaslow kind of thing. I'm
your
talking about the
team's
next
a
year.
joke.
Possible.
Your taxes are brutal. Your weather's awful. You don't have a GM. Your coach is unproven. You don't have any players.
It doesn't matter, though. He's going to get the ball more. He's going to be out there with more
God,
of a presence.
nobody cares.
I'm a big Knick fan, man.
You're delusional. You're delusional. Oh, he gets the ball more. For the worst roster in the league. He'll get 70 shots. He doesn't want 70 shots. He wants to be playing in May and June on television. You Knicks fans are you're the worst franchise in the league. Your roster's putrid. Go rally at the Garden.
That place is a dump.
No, I mean, New York's great, but you're kidding yourself. This idea that players want to go where they can get a bunch of shots. Kobe's getting a bunch of shots for the Lakers. They're unwatchable. God. I can give you 100 reasons. You can't give me 2. I mean, am I nuts? If you're a star, you want to play with stars. I mean, Milwaukee's interesting. Jabari Parker, the Greek freak. They won some games. They made the playoffs. Now they've got Greg Monroe. That's a 45-win team. The Knicks next year could be a 13-win team, but he'll get a bunch of shots. I mean, that'd be like, think about this. Tom Brady's a free agent. He wants to go to Jacksonville, according to this caller, so he can get a bunch of passes. Yeah, because Jacksonville said, Tom, we'll let you throw the ball on every play. And Tom's like, I'd actually like to win games. Once guys get to their 7th or 8th year in the league, and they've made $100 million, they want to win.
Check out The Herd with Colin Cowherd weekdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNRadio.com, and on ESPNU. The Thundering Herd Podcast.